Monday, December the 2nd, 2024. December is finally upon us. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief. I'm Kayode Okikilo and we're live for you in Lagos.
I love December because it's Christmas. It's my best month. So I love it. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
Well, for a lot of people in Trademore Estates, today might not be the very best days. And we're starting with breaking news that came to us very early hours of today. Well, we have to tell you that there's been a fire, an early morning fire at the only market in Trademore Estate in the Lugbe area of the nation's capital, Abuja. Well, the fire is said to have started at about 3:30 a.m. When the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company restored electricity, but the exact cause is yet to be ascertained. 2 hours after the fire started, we're told that men of the Federal Fire Service from EFCC and Salka Station eventually extinguished the fire. So there you have images of that fire at the only market in Trademore Estate.
It's a very sad development, given this is a Yuletide, the state of the economy. There's so many things I could talk about that just makes this not to look right. But it's an accident. I don't know what it is with this Trademore Estate and one incident or the other, but this is yet another story emanating from Trademore Estate for those who live in the nation's capital, Abuja. This happened last night, early hours of today, and you can see the devastating effect of what this will potentially cause. We don't know what and how many things were destroyed, but certainly from what we can see with our eyes, we can clearly see that buildings have come down, and apparently things within those buildings would have been affected one way or the other. Our thoughts and our prayers with the people that have been affected. No preliminary reports, if you will, as to what exactly caused this fire. We don't know yet, so the firefighters, you can see, did their best to catch up. We don't know the level of response, how quick they came, Kayode, because that's another thing altogether. When we talk about emergency services, it has to do with the speed of response.
Yeah.
That's why it's called emergency services, on the go. So how long was the fire? When did emergency responders get there? And all of these things. These are the things that the report will eventually show so that this can be averted. But it's quite difficult to see this in December. This is not the way to start the Yuletide season and the way to end a year, right, to get into a brand new year. Quite unfortunate.
Certainly not, Jeffrey. The report we have is that the fire was put out eventually 2 hours after it started. So give or take about 5:30 a.m., 6 a.m. The fire was eventually put out, extinguished by the Federal Fire Service from the EFCC and Salka Station. But just to paint that picture, Jeffrey, which you were putting out there, it's December, so you know that a lot of stores will stock either with rice, with vegetable oil, the usual things people want to buy for Christmas. So it's usually a time where there's meant to be a lot of business transactions. Lots of people actually live for December.
Yeah,
that is a moment, or the period rather, where you get to make some extra profit because there's a lot of people who want to buy things. So imagine that you stocked your shop with either rice, vegetable oil, whatever the case may be, and then you wake up to see fire engulfing it. Again, we don't know what was lost in the fire. When it's morning, we'll get that report and bring you more details. But there you see fire engulfing the only market in Trademore Estate, Abuja.
All right, we'll keep our eyes and our ears in the nation's capital. As soon as we get any updates, we'll bring you up to speed. But let's tell you exactly what we're doing to the Kayode. Get it started for us this morning.
Oh, yes. We'll be exploring how social media platforms can be utilized to spread awareness about HIV and AIDS, health, essentially. Yes, the world celebrated the World HIV/AIDS Day, and we're keeping tabs on that. But the slant is social media. We use social media for a lot of things.
Exactly.
But what more can we use it for regarding your health? We'll talk that too.
Yes. Also, we will talk about the rise or the increase in what we call digital nomads, the guys in the know, individuals who work remotely while traveling around the world. We explore how this trend is reshaping the country's tourism, economy, and everything in between. So it's a good time for you to find out, am I a digital nomad or I've just been overtaken by time?
You don't want to be the dinosaur here.
Yeah.
But that's not all. the big controversy in the nation.
Big one.
Oh, yes.
Keep it coming,
Taxes,
rolling.
taxes and taxes. Well, today, the president of the Chartered Institution of Taxation of Nigeria joined us to discuss the ongoing tax reforms in Nigeria, their importance for economic growth, and how they can impact both businesses and individuals. Not forgetting the big controversy, northern states, southern states. Is that what it should be? Should it be that, or just, well, ensuring that taxpayers' money works for taxpayers? We're getting deep into that.
There's something very clear with this tax reform. It has moved from the advantage of population to the advantage of productivity.
Right.
We'll bring you up to speed. But that's not all. Let's talk about veteran Nollywood actor Bode Smart. He joins us to discuss his career and experiences. The big guys making big things happen in Nollywood. Nollywood grew by 15%, quote unquote, year on year, but contribution to the GDP was about 0.2%. So we'll be exploring all of this. But the artistry of this gentleman is going to be in focus today on the program.
So absolutely, we have a show, and you can be a part of it. Hashtag CTV Morning Brief on X. Let us know what you think. First, did you witness the fire at Trademore Estate? Let's know your thoughts on that one. Particularly, it's a Harmattan season. And
Exactly.
we know that the elements are in favor of Inferno, if you know what I mean. So it's a time to be careful.
I like
as
that
well.
line. Weather in favor of Inferno.
Yeah, it's an ironic thing,
Yeah.
but Harmattan really says, fire, come over here. Let's make this work, essentially. So let's know about that. And any other issue trending around you. Hashtag CTV Morning Brief, as you can see right here. That's our
And we promise you anything you do and say, as long as it's good for television. Our job is simple. Bring you up to speed and amplify it right here. But we'll go on a quick break, come back and give you your top stories. Join us again.
bring you what's in the news this morning. President Bola Tinubu will be leaving France for Cape Town, South Africa, to co-chair the session of the Nigeria-South Africa National Commission alongside President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa. That's according to a statement issued by Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga. The event, scheduled for Tuesday, that's tomorrow, December the 3rd, will be preceded by a ministerial meeting today at the South African Parliament building in Cape Town.
And back here in Nigeria, troops of the Nigerian Army have recovered 1.2 million liters of stolen crude oil, destroyed 56 illegal refineries, and arrested 17 suspected oil thieves in the Niger Delta area. The acting director, deputy director of 6th Division of the Nigerian Army, Jonah Danjuma, disclosed this development in a statement and said the troops also destroyed 88 cooking drums and 20 boats used for the illicit activity in 4 states, namely Rivers, Bayelsa, Delta, and Akwa Ibom states.
Well, there's more news coming from France. The federal government has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Republic of France to promote and diversify the critical mining value chain in the solid minerals sector. Well, this was confirmed in a statement again by the Special Assistant on Media to the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Segun Tomori. Mr. Tomori says the MOU signing was done by the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Mr. Dele Alaki, as you can see there on the sidelines of President Bola Tinubu's visit to France.
There's a lot going on outside and inside, but we'll head outside again this time on the international scene, where President-elect Donald Trump has threatened to impose 100% tariff on the BRICS group nations if they undercut the US dollars. Trump made this submission, this is truth on social media website. The statement comes after a BRICS summit held last month in Kazan, Russia, where the country disclosed boosting non-dollar transactions and strengthening local currencies.
Well, let's now bring you some sports news. There you have it. The results are out after lots of action over the weekend at the English Premier League. Liverpool opened up a 9-point lead at the top of the Premier League as Manchester City's crisis deepened in a 2-0 defeat at Anfield just yesterday. Well, Cody Gakpo's 12th-minute goal was a reward for the Reds' first-half domination, and they sealed an 18th win in 20 games under Arne Slot, and that's thanks to Mohamed Salah's penalty.
Well, Liverpool and all of the guys doing big things at the EPL, but let's come home. I think I'm dedicated to home today. Wizkid, Nigerian artist, you know him, the FCs against the 30 Beaches. Well, Wizkid's latest album, Mariah, has set a new Spotify African streaming record. Yes, the album, which was released on November the 22nd, set a record for the highest opening week for an African artist on Spotify. The 16-track album also features Sachet, Faiz Brent, Takola, and as Kadot, which we interviewed her the other day, as well as Jasmine Sullivan. So the big boys of Nigerian music are actually the big boys of African music. Sorry, that's pun intended, actually.
Naturally, yeah.
That's how it plays out for us.
Naturally.
We lead in this game. Our GDP may not be the biggest, but we lead in Afrobeat. What is going on? What is going on?
We'll take that at least for now,
while
we work towards the GDP. But those are the top stories making around this morning. We're keeping tabs. The situation in the nation's capital with the fire, the market in Trademark State, as well as other issues. The president going to South Africa. So stay right here with us as we bring you all of the updates. But the big question is, what have you been saying about some of the trending issues? Well, let's get right into it. But the very first one, of course, the president's visit to France. There's been a lot coming out of that visit, from the banter on X, the pigeon banter between our president, Tinubu, and President Macron of France, to that dinner. Now, that dinner was something to behold, Jeffrey, on lots of levels. Seeing traditionally French musicians doing Afrobeat music, trying to pigeon our pigeon. Right. Well, they were trying to francophone the pigeon, Jeffrey. You see, they had the sheet in front of them. One, they scored the music. Yeah, they tried. They scored the music. So they were actually sort of side reading our own Afrobeat that we read off the top of our head, or at least that we sing off the top of our head. Actually, we've made it. Exactly. We've made it, guys. So, well, we made it a long time ago. Well, for some people, maybe this is validation, but that is not what it should be. So let's show you the fact that the French band performed P-Square's Test the Money for President Tinubu and his wife, the Nigerian delegation, at the state dinner. So maybe we can get the sights and sounds for you, and also show you what Nigerians have been saying about that performance. Okay, we're gonna catch it up pretty soon. That video, you should see the French guys trying to perform P-Square song. But let's see what you're saying. Almost, I was legit vibing to it. They did great. The French accent gave it more spice.
I'm killing the beat and I'm giving the hit, so hey. No, I'm giving them everything, oh. I'm living my life, I don't have money, hey, I taste money, hey. My God, I'm allergic to poverty. You saw what? So I'm using my sense to gather the poverty. Say, no time, like the Statue of Liberty. And nobody knows tomorrow, so I'll be holding my destiny. Hey, as if you said a jungle, some people they bubble. I continue to struggle, struggle to double my destiny. As if you said a jungle, some people say,
oh boy, these guys, we give them. How would you score them currently? Over 10. Maybe they are French. They never even, maybe they don't even know how to speak English.
Right. I'll give them maybe an 8 for effort. Delivery, you know, because it's a whole package. Yeah. Right. There's the dance. There's the way you vibe to it. I'll give them a 5. For effort, I'll score them high on 5. But
see this guy. See the way he's smiling, like he understands what he's saying.
But Jeffrey, which we would read eventually. A lot of Nigerians see this and they're like, "What do you want from us? What are you trying to get at? What do you want from us? What do you want to gain?" And that's a natural skepticism that comes from seeing France going all out with the banter and all that. A lot of people are suspicious. What do you want from us this time around? All right, Thinker is next, saying, "Okay, this is good. Nigerian music really give us good exposure." This user says, "Do they even understand the lyrics of the song?" Well, they understand Taste the Money and Testimony. I'm not sure about the others.
All right, Honorable Adora says, "Oh, okay. I loved it. They seem to particularly love the screaming, 'Hey, Pat!' I couldn't stop laughing." Give this guy some kudos, man.
There you go. It's great to see, absolutely. So keep doing your thing in your corridor, and I bet you, if you're consistent at it, someday the world will vibe to it, whether or not they understand your language. Let's come over to Lagos, back home now, and face some of the issues we've had to contend with. Well, the Lagos state government had to put out some sort of clarification, disclaimer, after this video was trending, and a lot of people attributed it to the state banning sachet water. And, well, maybe allow you listening on this video and see what's happening here. This is a man destroying the bags of water.
Destroying, but the Lagos state government has put out what you call a disclaimer, saying that, look, we did not ban anything like this. We did not give any directive to this effect. For whatever happened here, we really do not know. But these are your reactions. Bernard says a noble approach to solving the problem, but Lagos state government must, as a matter of urgency, come up with a creative approach in waste management so that sachet does not pollute the environment.
Okay, let's reiterate. The commissioner, right, says that Sokumba Wahab says the government, Lagos state government, doesn't have any plans to ban sachet water. In that statement, he went and said that may have been NAFDAC doing their thing. Some other people had attributed it to a certain strike by those producing sachet waters, and they said that this was somebody enforcing that strike on people who are producing against the strike. But the government has come to say, well, it is NAFDAC and it's not the state government. So let's begin to read those comments in that context. The next user, Ada, says, "Who is rampaging or the rampaging sachet water puncher I've been seen on the internet?" Okay, so is that the name we're calling that person now? "On whose orders has he and his team of soulless lots," that's what his user says, been operating? So I hope that provides clarity, at least from the state government.
Faraway says, "Thanks for the clarity. Just as I've said before, therapy should be free for Nigerians."
Angle. I know this place where you can actually go to vent, destroy things, smash things. People think that does good, for people's, mental health. So there you go. These are some of the issues trending. We hope we've been able to provide clarity for you, particularly regarding this sachet water issue here in Lagos. But we'll keep following to ensure that you do not miss any part of this. But we'll take a moment now on the show, and when we return, we'll begin with the major conversations that have been trending and causing controversy, both online and on the streets. And of course, we'll be joining our correspondents on the streets of Lagos to see accessibility to transport. How are you moving this morning? Stay with us right here on the Morning Brief.
All right, the world is paying attention to World AIDS Day, which was yesterday, marked across the world. How many times did I say the world? Like twice. That's how important it is to the global community when it comes to HIV/AIDS, and Nigeria is not left out, which is why we're twisting, well, the word twist be the right one, maybe tweaking it a little bit to look at how we can use the power of social media to create awareness as far as HIV/AIDS is concerned in the country. And so we have literally a panel to have this conversation with us. So I'm going to go through all of them. We have joining us via Zoom, Dr. Douglas Iyala Pepple. He's a family physician, reproductive medicine. He joins us from Milton Keynes in England. Also, we have Dr. Anire Chimaoduko, public health physician, Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, joining us via Zoom. We also have Awala Victoria Ayo. She's an adolescent pair champion, Operation 000, beneficiary Orphan Vulnerable Children Program 000. She joins us from Abuja studio. And here in Lagos, we have Mr. Afolabi David, who is a co-founder and content chief at Tech Next here in Lagos. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for coming on the program. Let me start with you, Dr. Douglas Iyala Pepple, on this particular conversation as far as HIV/AIDS is concerned. Maybe you give us a basic foundation as to why this particular theme for the year should resonate with Nigerians, given the number of HIV/AIDS patients we have in the country.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. So I think it's quite a very important discussion at this time, and choosing social media as well, especially with the target population, young people who are mostly affected by HIV and AIDS. And there won't be any other right means of doing this other than using what attracts young people a lot. We'll see young people coming up or even making a living from content creation, from use of social media, making skits and other means of entertainment. And if there's a language that young people understand, I think it's best we communicate with them in that language. So using social media to create more awareness and to highlight the importance of the various campaigns that are ongoing to, first of all, help destigmatize HIV/AIDS and to help promote awareness of treatment available, and also to even help shed more light on how young people can actually, especially those who are affected, can live healthily and still attain their full potentials, even if they have contracted HIV or AIDS. So I think it's quite a very good campaign, a very good means of trying to disseminate this information.
Dr. Chimaoduko, let's find out from you, if there's a campaign already going on trying to target these young people, how effective do you think it is so far?
There are various campaigns that have been used in the past to target young people. On Twitter, we have campaigns with the hashtag U=you, which means undetectable means equals untransmissible. We have also platforms like organizations like the NICE, Nigeria HIV/AIDS Indicator and Impact Survey, that use Twitter to share updates on HIV prevalence and testing campaigns. Yesterday was World AIDS Day, and if you go on Twitter using the hashtag World AIDS Day, you see various posts that are educational materials targeting education on HIV/AIDS. So yes, and it reaches millions of people view these things. So yes, there are campaigns that have been underway using Twitter, using Facebook, that are actually successful.
Right, let's go over to our Abuja studio and speak with Awala for a moment here. And Awala, I'm quite interested in your slant or angle to this. Because on the one hand, it's been said that maybe young people spend too much time on social media, right? So this is a platform we're trying to win young people off, take Australia, for example, there's a new law that says if you're under 16, then you should not have access to social media in that sense. They're trying to phase that out. How do we then balance this, trying to get that message across to them on that important platform and also trying to ensure that they're safe on that platform?
Okay, so thank you very much. Social media is a wide platform, it's a powerful tool where you can reach other adolescents and young people. I personally, since I am an adolescent peer champion of Operation 000, we use WhatsApp, we use other social medias in order to communicate with adolescents and young people, basically talking about health, prevention, and how to use self-test kits. And also we do adolescent counseling. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Awala. So David, to you now. And the same question, really. How do we begin to retool social media? Because on the one hand, you have to first check with the health-seeking behavior of people, because whatever you want to give them has to align with at least where they're coming from, so you know where to meet them. Are you meeting them halfway? Are you meeting them where they are, basically? So how is this balance going to work? Same question I put to Awala. A platform we're trying to ensure that young people are safe, trying to limit that so they have access to real life, but it's that same platform we're trying to use to educate them.
So first, like Awala said, people are doing some things on social media already. There is a set of awareness that is going on. The question is this sufficient? Are we reaching the right volume of people? So we have influencers with millions of followers, 900,000 followers, 800,000 followers. Do you have these influencers on the train? We have pockets of young people that are sharing content about social HIV, AIDS, health awareness, mental health, but these people are not the popular people. So I tried looking through the space to identify a couple of influencers that I can really call influencers. Maybe if you talk about Chinonso Egemba, Aproko Doctor, Kanaga Jr., the highest volume of influencers for HIV and AIDS that we have in Africa are in South Africa and Kenya. And that is because I think the common trend I found around these influencers is that most of them maybe have histories with HIV. So for instance, Saidi Brown from South Africa, she lost her mother when she was 10 and her dad when she was 9. Both died of AIDS, and that led her into becoming an influencer for HIV awareness. Most Nigerian content creators don't have this personal experience, so they create this content maybe on HIV and AIDS Awareness Day and leave it at that. There is a need for us to have a systemized awareness program where we would find a way to motivate influencers. I know USAID was doing something like this from around 2009 to 2015, but I think the coming of COVID-19 in 2019, 2020 brought up a new focus for most of these agencies. And I'm saying that influencers, yes, can create content once in a while for HIV and AIDS awareness, but for you to make it a consistent stream, there is a need for us to create a system where we're going to motivate influencers to keep on creating this, because except people have personal history with HIV, they might not find a reason to create the content. So the first thing that we need to do is have key players, the government, NACA, Nigeria HIV and AIDS Prevention Center, and USAID, UKID, these agencies that are already playing in this space to come back and reconsider HIV and AIDS as something that is still very serious.
Is it still very serious?
It is.
So data says 2 million infected, about 1.5 or plus already on drugs.
Yes.
Would have access to the drug. So I mean, if you had to weigh this against other health issues, would you still call this an emergency? Because a lot of people say, well, been there, done that, we're past AIDS now.
So if if we weigh it against COVID-19, I think it's insignificant, because when you look at COVID-19, infection rate 700 million, death rate 7 million. But when you talk about HIV and AIDS, as of 2019, we have an infection rate of about 1.5 annually. And the number of deaths have reduced because of the antiretroviral drugs that we have available. But it's still a problem, especially in areas where people don't have access to these drugs. While I was in school, I had a roommate who had access to the drugs because of funding and availability. This is OAU fair. People have access to it. But when you go to other states like Zamfara and Taraba, where you have high prevalence, Taraba and Benue State especially, people don't have access to it. And a lot of people go about their sexual lifestyle without that knowledge that there is that disease out there, that there is a high chance that you're going to die. It's not like every other thing, so it's still a big problem.
Let's take it to the two doctors. I'm going to pose the same question to both of you, Dr. Duko and Dr. Pepo. Let me start with Dr. Duko in Lagos. It appears that we're having, from his submission and what Kyle did it as, more like scare fatigue. Nigerians will tell you we survived the worst. Ebola, we knocked it off. COVID-19. So what's the big deal with HIV? When that mindset is predominant among young people who are just interested in vibes, for those of you who are doctors who see these patients every other day and know the danger involved, how do we now communicate to say, look, it may not be as big as COVID or even Ebola, but something can happen to you that could change the course of your life for the rest of your life? Dr. Duko.
Okay. HIV is still a big problem. However, the demographic where it is a problem is changing. Right now, HIV is new infections are found in adolescents and young people, especially females. So new infections, twice as more females are contracting HIV compared to their male counterparts. So it is it's still a problem because it signals that there are inequalities. And we know that, so it's something that, and it can affect, when a disease is affecting young people like this, it means our future is being stolen. So these are some of the areas we can use to convince that it is a big issue. So it's not if it's something that affects old people, which is still bad, okay. But this one is affecting youth, young people who are just about to begin their lives. So it's still a problem. So new infections, and the thing driving these infections are things like inequalities, social problems, females being at the receiving end, not having a voice, not having knowledge to prevent the disease. So it is still a problem. I think we can use that demographic angle as a means of argument that it is still a problem. And it is something that right now it's actually now a chronic illness, meaning that the same way hypertension, diabetes is now how HIV is. It's not as deadly as when we used to have the epidemic in the early 2000s or so. So we need to say that more girls are coming down with this illness, but it can be prevented. So it's something that girls do not have to suffer from, or young people, if we do the right thing. So we can use this as an argument to show that it is still important.
Dr. Pepo?
Yeah, I mean, she said it all. I want to also add that, I think it's a way of trying to reduce scaremongering, to let young people know that they can, even though it might not be as deadly as, Ebola and COVID in those states when they started, that if they, seek help, if there's access to help, basically treatment to help reduce viral load and help people to live their normal lives. And like Dr. Nira talked about, seeing HIV/AIDS now as a chronic disease, just the same way you go get medicines for hypertension, diabetes, COPD, and asthma. Trying to create that platform where accessibility to treatment is readily available for young people and for them to understand that this is becoming not like it's a norm, but it's something that you can still attain your full potential to become whoever you want to be. I think so many agencies are doing their best. I know NACA, National Agency for Control of HIV/AIDS, have various campaigns. They have various outlets, the one-stop shop, and all those centers that are locally, strategically positioned where young people can not only to get treatment, but they can get tested. They can also have communications that will help drive this awareness to let people who was hit by this, especially like young people who have a whole lot of life ahead of them, to know that you can still live longer, get your treatment. The essence of the treatment is to help reduce viral load to undetectable limits, so that the risk of opportunistic infections and all those things that can easily tilt you towards the end of the spectrum, which is AIDS, you don't get to that point. So I mean, the demographics will have to be well targeted, and it's quite good that this time around the topic on social media is targeting young people who can make the best use out of it.
All right, just a moment, Dr. Yalapeple. I'm going to go to Awala very soon. Awala is a young adult living with HIV, so it's important to get your experience, how it's been so far for you, particularly because you're smack in the middle of a demographic being affected the most. But just before that, we need to go on the streets now. We promised earlier on to give our audience a feel of transport this morning, and we have our correspondent, Kelly Egiga, who is in a very busy part of Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. That's the Berger area. And he'll be speaking to us about how people are getting access to the BRT, for example. So, Kelly, I imagine it's a busy Monday morning where you're at, but speak to us. What is accessibility like and availability for people who are heading to work or different parts of Lagos at where you are right now?
All right, Kayode and Jeff, good morning, and of course, good morning, Lagosians. So we got in here about 10 minutes ago, and we've had to battle with someone who says he's the manager of the BRT park. And so we've been prevented from filming, we've been harassed a few minutes ago, but we have insisted that we have to tell the story of Lagosians who are here, some of them in the sun and in this queue for some hours now, trying to get a particular bus or BRT to their places of work, to the island. So take a look at them, everyone, wherever you're watching from. See the number of persons who are in the sun, because the only shade we can see here for Lagosians who have to go to work on a Monday morning like this is just in front there. It's not enough for these few persons to cover everyone here on this queue this morning. So this is what it looks like. To my left and to my right, you can see that a lot of persons are in the queue. They want to make their way to work, their businesses, their activities, but they have to stay right here like this for maybe 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and just to have access to the BRT. I mean, all credit to the Lagos State government. Yes, we understand there have been efforts to ensure that we have the blue line, the red line. Of course, we do have these buses as well here to ensure a movement. But we're talking more than 21 million Lagosians as of the last count, unofficially though. So it tells you just how the number of persons who need to move, especially on a Monday morning. It's a busy month. It's always a busy day in this part of the continent. As we speak, more persons are coming in, so the numbers of this queue is increasing. I'll try to talk to one or two persons earlier who may be willing to share their views. I'm not sure if you want to, sir. Let's talk to you and just hear a view. What's your name, please?
My name is Tunde Akimbo. I'm actually heading to the island. Actually, Lagos State is trying their best, but we need more from them. Sometimes we come here, some people will leave your home early, but by the time you get here, you're spending like 40 minutes, 1 hour and above on the queue. So what's the essence of living The idea of boarding the BRT bus is to get to your office as early as possible. But sometimes you spend a longer time. So we expect more from them. They are trying, actually, because it reduces the cost of transportation. But then, because the population are more, so there will be more. There should be more buses. There should be, sheds where people can say, when it rains, this place is always horrible. When it rains, it's always horrible. Everybody will be scattered. There's no shade. There is nothing. But they need to do more so that we can enjoy the benefits. Thank you.
All right. Give me your exact location on the island where you're headed and how much it costs.
It's 500 to TBS. So from TBS, I'll get to my office. But at least from here to TBS is 500 naira.
All right. Thank you so much. Any other person? You want to share your views? You want to? All right. So let's hear your name and your destination.
Adeyemo is my name. Just like my brother said earlier, what I just want to lay emphasis on is the welfare of people around here. Because we have a lot of people here. Not that they are not mobile, actually. But just because of the change in the hike in the petroleum PMS, so everybody just have to adjust and just go, commercially. But, my concern, like I've always said here, anytime I get here, though our government, they are trying, but I know that they are exposed also to the international world. And we know how train stations and bus stations, look like in the international world. Just like you rightly said, imagine during the raining season, people just have to move, etc., and just imagine a pregnant woman in that situation. As we speak right now, if you stay here, the minimum we can get into our bus is 1 hour. But like I said now, look at Yaba. I will advise Lagos State to replicate what they did in Yaba. This is the entrance of Lagos. So if we can have an a covered shed here and even a casted seat, a cemented casted, even it's not going to be a fantastic one. Let them just cast a seat here from that beginning down to the end. So that people can see it, and there is a shed here just like Yaba Station where people can see. Even if we spend 2 hours, we know that we are not distressed and we are very, very comfortable. So please, we know that they are trying, they have subsidized this trip, giving us 500 naira, but please let there be human face to the people that pass through this route. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your views, your insight as well. Guys, our exact location is the Breja area. It's a boundary area between Ogun State and Lagos. The numbers keeps increasing. Numbers keep going up. More Lagosians want to gain access to mainland Lagos and, of course, the Victoria Island part of Lagos. But let's move in. Let's see if my cameraman can. I'm here to get a female respond to me. I wish a female here would speak and share their views. But in all fairness to the Lagos State government, they do have a shade here. But look at it. Compare this shade with this number of persons waiting. That's on the one hand. The essence of the BRT bus is also supposed to speak to the issues around climate change and the environment. But this particular bus, as we see here, is smoking. It's supposed to speak to the issues around the air quality, as we experience here. But look at this particular bus. Look at the exhaust and see the smoke coming out from this BRT. And Lagosians have to stand here, some of them standing for an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, and some of them will have to inhale this. So these are some of the issues that I think the Lagos State government would need to quickly address. I know that the rainy seasons perhaps are over. Right. We cannot even tell anymore because it can rain any day. But these guys will have to battle this, battle the rain, battle the sun, just to get to their places of work and businesses. Jeff,
thank you for that update. I think it's important to raise these issues. We have to commend the people for staying on the queue.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, these are Nigerians, and we have to commend them for staying on the queue. Commend the Lagos State government for providing these buses, but of course, a lot more needs to be done in terms of the shade, in terms of, for example, that vehicle with the exhaust. But thank you very much, Kelly. Please stay safe. We understand that you were harassed earlier on, so please stay safe. Get back to us as soon as you have anything. But thank you for your reporting, Kelly.
Absolutely.
Well, our correspondent Kelly Giga right there in the Burger area of Lagos. And these are the stories we bring to you right here on The Morning Brief. Well, let's continue with our conversation on HIV and AIDS and the import of social media in ensuring that we bring this to zero. Awala, I was going to come to you earlier on. You're a young adult living with HIV and AIDS. At least you're not scared of this. You're proud to share your experience, hopefully to help other young adults out there. But speak to us about your experience, because I imagine that it's not been a bed of roses. Yes, you've had support, but talk to us about your experience.
Okay, thank you. Growing up, knowing about my status right from about the age of 10, it was difficult for me knowing the stigma in the society and knowing that people with HIV mostly end up being depressed because of self-stigma and stigma from other people. So me, I had opportunity to receive care from my dad, from the case givers, and also from the doctors in the facility, yes, and also OVC, that's orphan and vulnerable children. They supported me with making sure that I go to school, making sure that I take my medication, I adhere to my drugs, I adhere to my appointments, and also making sure that I am zero detectable viral load.
And again, we have to thank you for sharing your experience as a young adult living with HIV. But what more would you want people to know about this? First, in terms of relating with people with HIV, the stigma associated. I imagine things have gotten better, but I mean, what more must we do to ensure that we do right by you and by others as well? Awala.
So the society is still, some of them are still yet ignorant about HIV and AIDS, most especially the parents who their kids are also HIV positive. They are scared to reveal to their kids about their status, because I talk to most of the adolescents, and most of them don't even know that they are HIV positive because their parents is scared of telling them about their status. So I feel we should do more on educating the parents, most especially, so they can enlighten the adolescents and young people, and then they can come out with confidence, like me, just like me, and say that, okay, I am HIV positive, and I'm not ashamed of it, and it's not a death sentence. I can live a normal life, a healthy life. Thank you.
We must commend you for your bravery, and thank you for sharing your story. And we really do appreciate you. But let's bring it now to Mr. Afalaya. Looking at her, and you are a techie, how do we use stories like this to speak? Because you don't have to speak just to adolescents. To be careful out there, because some of these children got it from their parents. How do we use cases like this to drive the message further home for both adolescents, parents, and every other young person out there?
So the simple answer is creating content. Creating content that everyone can understand. Because you'll be surprised about you'll be surprised if I try explaining the impact that social media has on the way people think, the things that they relate with, and how they see the world. I met someone who was a content creator with 4 million followers. She's from South Africa, and she created a dance step, just a simple dance step in her parlor. Thought about it, some movement, created a dance step, and that dance step became something very viral in South Africa. A lot of artists used it in their music just because someone with 4 million followers created something abstract, right? the impact that we can achieve by creating content around stories like this and sharing it on handles of very powerful influencers is very powerful. But like I said initially, we would not be able to achieve that kind of drive if there is no external motivation. My earliest experience with HIV and AIDS awareness was when I was in secondary school. We had HIV and AIDS club, and that club was sponsored by the United States AID, USAID. We went for outreaches, we had programs with other students across Lagos and all of that. And one of the things that stood out for me was people saw that club as an avenue where they can ask questions that they were not free to ask at home or in the classrooms. People talked about sexual life experiences. Because we were all growing into puberty, people were able to ask questions about their experiences around puberty, wet dreams, and a couple of other funny questions. But we had good mentors who could answer those questions. Nowadays, the avenue for people to get answers to such questions is no longer HIV clubs in school, but the social media space. So we need to invest in groups that can create content that could answer those questions preemptively. So there is a similar group in Kenya called Feminet. Feminet is a group that is targeted at young boys, and they create content with Boys Brigade. There is a group called Boys Brigade. I'm sure we have them in Nigeria. So the effeminate group think about how can we explain this thing to a 5-year-old Boys Brigade person that he can understand. And they create content around sex, sexual experiences, mental health, diseases like HIV and AIDS. And they bring into the studio a small boy of 5 years putting on a Boy Scout shirt, and they explain the concept to this boy. Then they publish that content online. And they assume that if the 5-year-old Boy Scout boy can understand that subject, every other person can understand. We need that kind of drive in Nigeria, and it would not be organic or spontaneous. We need mentors, investors, government stakeholders to invest in that kind of movement.
All right, let me bring it to you, doctors. I'd like to ask both of you similar questions because you're in the space. He has spoken as a techie, but let me put out a scenario. For instance, the government reaches out to you because you're the people who see these guys every other day and say, okay, our guardrails are not as effective as we want to be. Guardrails, by guardrail I mean abstinence, be faithful, use a condom, and now they've added drug abuse and all of that. What additional layer can we add to make sure that from your expertise and from where you sit, this can be as implementable and measurable as possible? Because our target here is adolescents who sometimes are quite reckless. They are not sure of the decisions they are making. We're talking about issue of peer pressure and all of the attending issues that we deal with. So let's start with you, Dr. Pepple.
I mean, you've said it all. It has to be A, B, C, D. Abstinence, being faithful, correct and consistent use of condom, use of antiretroviral medications. But beyond that, as healthcare practitioners, I think also we should be looking at trying to especially remove the barriers to treatment, barriers to getting access to information, harm reduction. These are areas that I think healthcare practitioners can try to use their expertise and their experience more. In terms of removing barriers, how is the conversation about HIV to young people, like my brother earlier talked about? How do we bring it to a place of normalcy, like they feel they can, they feel vulnerable to talk about it and try to destigmatize it. Okay, for instance, when you talk about creating content, how they put adverts of HIV AIDS with someone who's quite sickly, who looks quite emaciated and all of that. Those are scaremongering pictures to associate this with. We want young people to embrace the programs and the policies of government and organizations in terms of HIV/AIDS prevention and awareness. Then you have to put people that look like them or people that they want to aspire, they want to identify with. Put a healthy looking person in your advert. Encourage skit makers to make content that are positive and not negative, not content that will kind of make young people, caricatural content. No, that's not what we want. We want positive, enhancing content that will promote well-being, that will promote wellness, that will empower them and make them feel like, yes, the society has accepted this, and then we might as well try our best to live our full lives with all the resources available.
Dr. Zuko, your last thought on this. I asked that question and used the word implementable because when you go across social media, some of the things that drive traffic are things that have to do with sexual exposure. And those things are actually, call it fly on the wall triggers that people may not notice, but is affecting them to make decisions that will be detrimental to their lives, even for adults, not to talk of adolescents.
From my perspective, I think what we can be looking at is engaging health experts to come up with these contents that are targeted at adolescents and young people. It's very important that the content that is shared is evidence-based, is the right thing, because another downside for social media is that wrong information, misinformation can be spread. So it's very important that there should be collaboration. So I like that this panel has someone in the tech space who knows how social media works and how to drive engagement and marketing. So there should be more collaborations with the health experts that know the information, the correct information that we want to be passed out, and how. Because there's a message, there's a way you can pass it, and it will not be attractive to listen for a young person. It's also important that we explore new strategies like having the Gen Zs or the young people be the drivers of these conversations themselves. Yes, it's good to get an influencer, but it's also good if a young person, a Gen Z, are into being the one that will come up with, what do you think would sell among your friends? What can you do? So letting the Gen Zs get the conversation and campaign is very important as well. And also giving them the right information and telling them to say, okay, this is what we want you to share. How will you share it? In a way that does not spread fear, that does not spread the wrong information, and is attractive. I think we should look into targeting messages to reach the intended audience.
I want to thank all of you. The ambition for zero may be too ambitious, but we can bring the numbers as down as possible. And I'm happy everybody is on this panel to give their own take on this particular issue. I must thank all of you. And this year's theme is take the right path, or take the right path, my health, my right. Our guest, Dr. Douglas Yella Pepple, family physician and reproductive medicine, joining us from Milton Keynes in England via Zoom. Dr. Annie Chima-Oduko, public health physician, Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, also joining us via Zoom. Thank you, doctors. Awala Victoria Ayo, adolescent pair champion, Operation 000 beneficiary, orphan and vulnerable children program, a member of the 000. Thank you so much, Victoria, for sharing your story. We appreciate you. And right here in our Lagos studio, the tech man himself, David Afolayan, our co-founder and content chief at TechNext. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we will be shifting gears, but this time we're staying with this virtual space. How do we exploit it? We call it the nomads. What does this even mean? We'll bring you up to speed. Join us again.
Well, it's been a very tricky issue, really, this work from home matter. But COVID came and it looked like, well, it was inevitable. But then COVID left and it looked like a lot of people were saying, no, don't work from home, work from work. But, you know, some things are just inevitable. So how do we find our way around this, particularly in a time where you need more efficiency, when the costs are going all the way up, and the world is now a global village, right? We have joining us on the show this morning to talk about, well, we'll call it work from home, digital nomadic setup. We have Larry Basamta, who is the CEO and co-founder Optimus AI Labs. Larry, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Hi, guys. Good morning.
Good morning. Let me start from us. It's really tough for us to work from home, right? As I'm
certainly.
But certainly this is something that has come to stay. And I think I'm talking like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. It came to stay, but we were fighting against it. But here in Nigeria, it looks like Nigeria is fast becoming some sort of a work from home hub for the world, right? A lot of people are in Nigeria, but they are working for global companies. So speak to us about how these things come together. Sometimes it's tricky when you just speak to one case, but you have the data. How big is this in Nigeria?
I mean, very much, and thank you for the question. I think very much like you said, this work from home buzz is a global phenomenon. And it started very much like you said, a bit before COVID, but COVID was very much like a watershed. COVID helped us realize that we all could work without necessarily being at work. As a matter of fact, there were, media houses like yourself, journalists during COVID who were actually broadcasting from home.
Yeah, some of us did.
Yes, I could remember vividly Richard Quest and the likes. All these. And so it helped us see that, life could be more virtual and yet not lose its efficiency. And so post-COVID, organizations started thinking, could we do this well? Could we do this more? And there was an army of young people who seriously wanted to not come to work, and so it sort of started. The benefit for Nigeria, answering your question, is that it sort of exposed our workforce to the global economy. Maybe Nigeria's biggest advantage, not maybe, certainly Nigeria's biggest advantage is our people. And Nigeria has the youngest population by far. Our average population is about 19.2 years. And so what it meant is that you had an army of young people who Nigeria alone could not cater to, who are now exposed. And with COVID mixed with increasing instances of digital acceptance, digital education, digital literacy, we now had a lot of army of young people who could work, who could connect, particularly in the digital and tech space. And so it became great for people. People are now not compelled to have to leave their families or their culture. They can work from here, earn in dollars. We've maybe eradicated some of the barriers in payments. They could accept payment for what they do. And so it became such an interesting experience, not just for working outside of the country, but also within the country. And so it just changes life for everyone.
Let's talk about some of that issues related to this.
Okay.
But I want to talk, Lagos, when it comes to taxation, I think Lagos leads in anything tax. As a matter of fact, the Governor Sanwo-Olu is already preparing for it. I understand there was a time there was a release, it talked about raising about 200 billion naira from over 2 million people working remotely, and those tax policies and all of that. So when the practitioners within the remote work space hear all of this, I know they want to pay tax. But they want to see a few things done for them to be able to say, this tax I'm paying is worth it, because that's always where Nigeria has a challenge. You know what the taxation issue is dealing with in Nigeria generally. In fact, as Channel TV, we're discussing that this evening on our sister program later. So it's a big issue. I'm saying that to say, when it comes to how to bill some of the people that are working remotely, how will the practitioners want the government to handle it? Because some of them have felt like, okay, working from home, I've escaped a few things. I could, not pay a few things, but now their eyes are on me to even raise as much as 200 billion naira. What would I expect the government to do for me to be effective?
I think that when you think about government and governance, and you think about their responsibility aside from security and welfare, you think about infrastructure. And in the infrastructure space, there are typically three pillars of infrastructure. That the fiscal infrastructure that government can create. So whether this young man or young woman is working virtually or not, it still needs to live in a house or an hotel. It still needs access to power. It still needs, other infrastructure that supports his lifestyle, water and the likes. And so people expect that whether I'm living in Lagos or not, you still provide some of the infrastructure that allows my existence to be reasonable. But if you moved away from physical infrastructure, there are digital infrastructure which makes people's lives hard. Yesterday I was in a non-stop 15-hour meeting, and some of the guys I was working with, were on a project that we needed to deliver. Some of the guys we were working with, one of them was coming from a wedding in Ilorin and was working real time. And many of the time, he couldn't collaborate with us because there was no internet access, just from Ilorin to this place. I'm not talking about backwater parts of Nigeria, just Ilorin to Lagos. And so there's a need for government to provide digital infrastructure or provide the enabling environment that allows digital infrastructure to thrive. Of course, it's the social infrastructure. So imagine this person who's working virtually, and I'm even talking within the Nigerian context, is not going to be home 24/7 every day non-stop.
Right.
It still needs to unwind. And so government needs to also help us provide. And so when somebody who doesn't live in Lagos or lives in Lagos walks out there, he wants to pay some taxes in Lagos. He wants to feel like there is the infrastructure, and not just Lagos now. There is the infrastructure that supports my lifestyle. And even if the organization I work for is in the US or in Europe, at least I feel like I'm not disconnected from where I live. That there is some benefit I'm getting, and so I feel obligated. I mean, you said some people would like to pay taxes. I'm not sure there are too many people who want to pay taxes, but if they see the benefit of their taxes, they are more compelled and more encouraged to want to pay more.
Funny story. The Presidential Taxation Committee did a survey.
Policy and tax reforms.
Yeah, they did a survey, and if you were to put 10 Nigerians in a room, right, for the result of that survey, less than 2 of the 10 actually believe in paying taxes.
Yeah.
Less than 2.
That's fair.
We don't have up to 2.
How can you say that? That's unpatriotic.
No. So tax by design is not necessarily connected to patriotism. Okay. As a matter of fact, even in developed climes, people generally don't want to pay. They pay because they know it's their legal obligation. So you pay because of the potential.
So there's nothing natural about it.
No, there's not.
This question is not about taxes. It's just something, particularly because we're discussing tax reforms in Nigeria. So this has opened people's eyes to the reality. But my question now is this. How do you know if work from home or remote work is for your organization? And I see a lot of owners. I mean, Elon Musk, for example, asking people, come back. Come back to forget this remote. I need to see you in the office. While some say, well, that is so 10 years ago. We're in 2024 now. So as a business owner, as the head of a corporate organization, a conglomerate, and you're trying to weigh the options, remote work or otherwise, how do you know that remote work is for you and it's not for you? Because clearly, I don't think it's for everybody.
I completely agree with you. I think there are a few combinations that you need to consider. First is the nature of the business that you offer. Think about it. If you're in hospitality, you are never going to work from home because your job is in serving people. People should experience hospitality. If you own an hotel, for example, I mean, how would you offer? I mean, think about it. Although during the height of COVID, there was actually virtual tours that people were offering, but it was only during COVID because they couldn't leave their homes. And so if you were in hospitality, work from home certainly doesn't make sense. I mean, if you were in airlines where people need to travel, you're not going to fly their planes from your home, right? So it's the nature of the work. And then also it's the nature of the people that work with you. I mean, for example, for the last 5 months, I run an organization where we have worked largely from home. But from this month, I've asked HR, please bring the people back.
Why?
Okay. I mean, and I'm sure they are not happy even listening to this online. Okay. Because I run a young organization, we're just about 34. The biggest consideration for me is culture. We're just building out and getting people to come together to understand themselves once in a while, not necessarily bringing them fully, is critical because without culture, really, what do you have? And so wholly running an organization virtually, which may be cool. I mean, because we moved from our former office to a new office space, it took us some time to set up and all that. I mean, I was thinking about it. Do we really need this new office space? We could save millions of naira, not just in rent, but also furniture, consumables, power, and the like. We could save millions automatically, but if you compare that cost to the benefit of culture, trust, I mean, this is the most challenging time in the life of the young company because we don't know ourselves enough. We have new members join the team. They don't know me. I mean, they were briefly in the office on Saturday. I had to pop in and see them just so to build trust. And I heard, I mean, just in the last segment, you were talking about camaraderie. It matters a lot because these are the unseen soft foundations around which an organization or group of people are built. So I would say first, what you do, the nature of the people that works with you, and of course over time would it impact on your efficiency? I mean, efficiency-wise, it's not necessarily going to impact because we run a tech firm, but at the foundation of it, there are still people that make it work.
All right, we're going to be futuristic when I come back, or when we come back. We just want to touch base with our correspondent who is also working from the road. Not working from home. Okay. Sadiq Ilyasu is standing by in Kano, the ancient city of Kano, to bring us up to speed with what is going on in that city at the moment. Sadiq?
Hi.
All right, Sadiq, I'm not sure where you are, but I'm sure you know where you are. So you bring us up to see where you are and what exactly is going on as far as the weather and the traffic situation is concerned. I know that the Harmattan has made landfall, I'm sure, in places like Kano, because Kayode just came back from Abuja and he was complaining about that already. So give us your take on this one.
Well, I'm here in Kano on the state roads, one of the major roads in the state. And with regards to weather, for like 2 or 3 weeks ago, we have been experiencing serious cold. And sometimes the weather drops down to less than 15 degrees. Fortunately, today, I'm able to stand here without shivering and what have you, because it's a bit sunny today. But you can see up to now, a lot of people are wearing cardigans, and we have seen the return of face masks, and so many things have changed because of the weather. And one important thing is that the State Emergency Management Agency here in Kano State has been trying to enlighten the public, especially with regards to those who usually light fire at home to feel warm. So this usually causes a fire outbreak. And you know the history in Kano State, we usually see a lot of fire outbreaks during this season. So the State Emergency Management Agency here in Kano has been warning the general public to stay away from that and to be very cautious whenever they are trying to warm their places. And you can see now it's a rush hour. A lot of people are trying to go to their various offices, while some are trying to take their children to school. So I can say Kano is very okay today. Back to you.
Thank you so much, our correspondent Sadiq Ilyasu, reporting from the streets of Kano. Let's come back to the digital man. My simple question is the future of remote work in Nigeria, say between now and 2030. You know, we always like to set timeline in Nigeria, so let me join that culture.
Okay.
Where do you see it, and what will it look like?
I think remote work is going to converge very fairly around hybrid. I think why that is so is because we're never going to discount the value of human interactions and connections, and it's going to be crucial not just to culture building, but over time to building trust and building a sense of cadence around which people will work. Okay, that's the first. I think that as we continue to improve our digital infrastructure, there'll be many more organizations that are going to lean on that. I know that co-working spaces started way before COVID. We're going to see way more of that, particularly with the rising inflation, cost of rentals, and of course, cost of office utilities. It won't make sense for organizations who run hybrid to own and have to rent their own spaces. I mean, we had an office where we largely came to the office only twice in a week, but we're paying diesel for a whole week, non-stop. It didn't make sense. As a matter of fact, that's why we left our former place. And so right now, we're putting together an infrastructure where we didn't have to pay diesel every day because we don't go to the office every day. And so co-working spaces is going to grow even much more. The last thought I'm going to share is there are already organizations who own their own rental properties or their own actual property. They're going to start thinking about what do we do with these buildings and infrastructure if we're not going to be coming to the office every day. So they're going to think about co-working spaces around their own infrastructure, or possibly even letting out some of them for others to be able to use. I think that's where the future is going to converge.
I'm told we have to be nomadic about this conversation and move. But just in 5 seconds, which is cheaper? It's a very tricky one. Remote work or in person?
I mean, if you're talking naira and kobo, certainly remote work is cheaper. But if you're talking about in terms of value, I mean, you always have to connect.
Cheaper for the company, more expensive for the remote worker.
Maybe cheaper for... No, in the long run, you may wonder that you have a lot more rework, a lot more expenses, a lot more error when people fully work virtually because they are not collaborating, connecting. You may find that it's not as cheap.
It's very interesting, this conversation, really, and I'm glad that we've been able to tackle it. So if you're thinking about it, we've provided valuable data from someone who is experiencing it firsthand, you know, as to what remote work is all about. But we have to thank you so much, Larry Basamta, CEO, co-founder, Optimus AI Labs. We'll talk about the AI part some other time because we're big on AI and the pros and cons. But thank you for your time. Wish you the very best.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So there you have it. Choose wisely, whichever works for you. Make sure you go for it. Weigh the pros and cons very well. We'll take a moment now. And when we return, the big topic, taxes, is what we turn our attention to. And we have an authority joining us right here. So if you need to know about the tax debate, controversy, stay with us right here on The Morning Brief.
Never in the history of Nigeria would I ever have envisioned, Kayode, and our audience, that tax will be this divisive. I've never seen tax it's been divisive. The issue of taxation. The Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee, led by Taiwo Oyedele, has come up with some reforms and submitted 4 bills to the National Assembly for consideration. They passed second reading, but it has not sat well with a couple of people, especially those from the north. And so that is the portion that has caused the biggest controversy. If you look at what it says, notwithstanding any formula that may be prescribed by any other law, the net revenue accruing by virtue of the operation of Chapter 6 of the Nigerian Tax Act shall be distributed as follows. A, 10% to the federal government, 55% to the state government and federal capital territory, 35% to the local government. This is the controversial line, provided that 60% of the amount standing to the credit of states and local government shall be distributed among them on the basis of derivation. That is where, in Nigeria, we say that's the cocoa.
All right.
That is where the controversy is. So that's why we have the right man to speak about this. He's the president, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Mr. Samuel. I believe he joins us via Zoom. Sir, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
I was talking to my colleague Kayode, and I said I've never seen a policy that requires multiple explanation like this policy because of this derivation formula. Maybe you can bring us up to speed on why this is as divisive as it is.
Okay, thank you very much. The Economic Stabilization Bill, which comprises all the 4 bills, is actually a major introduction, or if I may say, a landmark intervention within the tax space in Nigeria. And you can't talk of taxation without talking of the economic itself. So it is as important as in my lifetime, and even as a tax practitioner, this is the first time this kind of massive intervention is coming from government. And I tell you, it is overdue. It is needed for Nigeria to move forward. Over the years, as an institute, that is Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, we'll be advising the political leaders as to the unrealistic nature of financing Nigeria economy with oil revenue. Mono product economy will not help a country like Nigeria. And if you look at possibly the first 5 or 10 prosperous countries in the world, they are not relying on natural resource or resources. But in Nigeria, putting all our eggs in one basket, relying on revenue from oil, has brought us to this sorry state. So it is a good one that the government is looking at this to make revenue from taxes a way of financing public expenditure. And we dare say that revenue taxes is the most sustainable way of financing government activities. So it's a good one. A lot of benefits that will not only bring money into the government purse, but also make business to thrive. Because we must not be fixated with the fact that each time we talk of taxation, we talk of revenue collection. Taxation is a tool of even economic rearrangement, if I can use that phrase.
Right.
And to the extent that you can also use taxation to redistribute income. So there are a lot of things to speak to that in this bill. And we also have a way of addressing the problem, the age-long problem of ease of doing business being addressed in this bill. So to that extent, we believe once this bill is passed with all the proposed amendments, with all the intervention from various stakeholders across the country, which is actually needed. You can't have a bill of this magnitude without various interests coming to express their opinion.
Well,
so once all the opinions are brought on board, I believe Nigeria will be better for it.
Well, Mr. Agbelu, I know you'll also be playing some role in this build-up. It's past second reading. It's been taken to the committees, and there'll be a public hearing. I will see what eventually comes out of it. So there's a lot of work, as you said. But on the face value, what you've seen. By the way, 4 bills, lots of provisions, but that one of the provisions causing the issue is what Jeffrey just read, attribution versus derivation. From what you've read, Mr. Agbelu, does this bill or these sets of bills, does it put any state at a disadvantage? If it does, how? If it doesn't, how should people read that particular section then?
Well, let me come in this way. Derivation is not 100% an economic matter. It has the social and political angle. So for us in CITN, it must be looked from that perspective, not entirely from economic angle. Because I was in your station about a week ago, and I said, if Nigeria must move forward, no state will win if every other state is not winning. And if you look at the rural-urban migration, if you look at the social dislocation in the country, it only speaks to the fact that everybody must be brought on board. I will also look at it from this angle. We are looking at the activities, the 90% that is going to both the state and the local government is to be distributed 60% derivation, 20% population, and 20% equality. Now, it is so important in order to make all parties win. We can also suggest that we look at those states with the most negative climate challenge. And we say, okay, let's give them a certain percentage from this amount. So it is not a bad thing that people are talking about the derivation. It is only to make everybody relevant and everybody to get on this cake. And it is not to be looked, I repeat again, from only economic perspective. Political, social aspect must be taken into consideration, and this rests solely within the political leaders. So we advise constructive engagement at that level, so that once this is done, the other major aspect that we actually bring a lot of sanity into Nigerian tax base, we can get the benefit. And I mentioned earlier, apart from the fact that this is to bring more money into the covers of government, which is not in the immediate, because once the moment these bills are implemented, a lot of reduction will be coming to the government purse, because there are a lot of variables that are being resolved in favor of companies, taxpayers. So that will mean in the immediate future, there will be reduction into what will be going to the government purse. But as we go on, and as we use the benefit of this reduction and sincerity of government to at least want to reduce what they collect from people and to make life easier for them, which we see a lot in this bill, then we'll be creating the culture where people will want to voluntarily comply. And voluntary compliance in taxation is far better than enforcement. So we see the possibility of this leading to voluntary compliance. And of course, it will also give opportunity for many people to come into the tax net, because many people are not in the tax net as we speak because of the hostile way the existing law has been drafted, or the major one, which is the lack of trust, the trust deficit between the populace and the government. Once this is made clear to the taxpayer by virtue of the implementation of this bill, we expect many people to come into the tax net and make their own fair contribution by paying their taxes. And of course, the revenue can go up. But in the immediate future, by virtue of what we have in this bill, the revenue to government, particularly federal government, will be declining.
All right, Mr. Agbeli, let's talk about that political disagreement. We had Governor Zulum yesterday speaking about this, and they've been advocating for more time. And this bill, is there a merit to their? This bill, for instance, is there a merit to their argument as far as this is concerned? Because from what we see and what we've observed, it feels like they are saying this has skewed from the population advantage to the productivity advantage, if you look at it. So usually we had 50% for equality, and then population 30, and then derivation 20. Now that has been changed to equality and population now being 20-20 and derivation 60. Is there a merit in their own argument?
Well, I believe there's merit. And whoever wants to discuss should be given the opportunity to discuss. I was in Maiduguri 2 days ago, and Governor Zulum is somebody who should be taken seriously. The man is doing a fantastic job. The man is actually, by virtue of what he's doing in Maiduguri, is an advocate. You can use what he's doing. I saw it live. I was there, peaceful and very good things happening in Borno. So that kind of a man can be a kind of face to even advocate for tax payment, because you can see what you give to government as it is being used. So discussion must be, I agree. And I also, as an institute, I led my team to also kind of create more awareness. You agree with me, ordinarily without this bill, taxation is technical. It's very technical. And if ordinarily taxation is technical, with this magnitude of change, there will be need for a lot of people to take their time to understand line by line, word for word, and the implication. So do we need more time for sensitization? I agree. And I must also say that even as an institute, we are part of the committee that came up with this bill at one stage or the other. And I can say that there's always been, has been a kind of sensitization even in the past 1 year.
Right.
But my reading is that now that sensitization has not occurred at the political level. And I am also believing that the committee members may not be the one to talk to the political leaders. The political leaders must talk to themselves, right, and they understand the language before they get before the buying will come in.
Well, Mr. Agbeli, so listening to some of the political leaders, you get that sense that a lot of them have not read the bill. Clearly, they've not read the bill. Sometimes what they speak to are things they were told, and again, we have to raise concerns about those around them, their aides, because, hey, you can't expect them to read all these things, but you expect that their aides are able to give them the accurate information and interpretation. But when you hear some of them speak, you're like, you've certainly not read this thing. But I want us to wind down on this point, Mr. Agbeli, and we started talking about, the survey that was conducted, that less than 20% of Nigerians actually believe in paying taxes, right? So just less than 2 out of 10 would pay taxes. The rest believe, one, I'm paying taxes anyway, so why pay to the government that I don't trust, that I don't see them using the little we're paying for anything, and hey, there's corruption and all of that. And that's a conversation we need to be having as well. Okay, allow the politicians to talk about this, but speak to what concerns us as a people. So do you think we're sacrificing that very important part on the altar of derivation and all of that? Shouldn't that be also something that we're speaking to?
I agree that there should be things we are speaking to. I'll give an example. Before, as we speak, we have states where you have about 65 different types of taxes, and nobody should be proud of that. I keep on saying that, and that is being reduced to about 9 through this proposal. Now, how come that the system allows non-state actors to collect taxes? And even when this bill is signed into law, we need to pay attention to that. Because these non-state actors who have held sway before now and who have benefited from the taxes they are collecting illegally from the system, we need the political leaders to call them to order, to make sure that they leave the road, to make sure that they allow business to thrive. Otherwise, the benefit arising from this bill will not be there for us. So this will be of great concern to all of us. We know as an institute that some of the political leaders, in the course of campaigning or running for an office, the people who sponsor them, who back them up, when they get to the office, they give them, okay, you can move to the east or west of the state, go and collect whatever you can collect to recover what you have spent. That will not work with this bill. So we also need to sensitize the political leaders, particularly at the state and local government, that the practices by non-state actors is not helping anybody, because the money we are getting or the money those people are collecting is not going to the official purse. And that is one of the reasons why our tax to GDP rate is low. So who benefits when few people, possibly because of their collection, possibly because of the power of whatever they are collecting money that is meant for everybody. So we need to, this time around, and I know that that is not a fault that is that we can put at the doorstep of the federal government. It's mostly at the doorstep of various state governments, of various local governments. This must stop. The government must protect the citizens from the non-state actor. And this is one critical area we must not overlook in this discussion.
All right, we must thank you so much, Mr. Samuel Agbelu, President, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. And as Kayode said, the governors and all of these gentlemen must read that bill, because if you look at that bill, it favors both the guy who is the production hub and the guy who is the consumption rendezvous. Everybody has a piece of the pie. But thank you, sir, for coming on the program. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we will take a quick break. When we come back, we have our guest already right here in the studio. His name, Bode Smart, joining us. Yes, that's him. Joining us just a moment. We'll be chatting with the Nollywood superstar in just a moment. Stay with us.
I think he has forgotten who I am.
We can settle this matter privately. It does not have to go to the Babajiro.
It does.
If it goes to the Babajiro, they will cut off his head.
Then so be it. Odejimi committed a grave offense, and it's tantamount to punishment. No warrior disobeys me, the Balogun of Ibakwata. I have come to collect that debt, a life for a life. If Odejimi is set free, then that debt has been paid.
You've heard that no one disobeys the Balogun. So we're going to put that to test on the show this morning. We have joining us. That is smart. I mean, multi-potentialite. Give that to me. Actor, director, host. The list goes on and on. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the morning brief.
Thank you so much. Great being here.
What happens if they disobey Balogun?
Well, the head goes to the gallows.
In 2024?
And that just speaks, I know, right, in 2024, and that just speaks to what you bring on stage.
Yes.
I mean, behind the scenes, at home, you're one thing, and then on stage, on the screen, wherever it is, you switch and you're that thing. You know, Marv and I joke that an actor, for example, who's probably just an everyday person, maybe just rides a simple Toyota, you know, gets on scene and is a billionaire or is a president, and guess what, you believe it. So next time you see that actor in real life, you're almost tempted to say, give me $1 billion. It's like, I don't have this. So speak to us first about that part of you, the acting bit.
So the reality here is one of the core elements of being an actor is your ability to live many lives. It's very essential that for everybody who watches a movie and they see you, they do not see you, they see the character. And so method acting is one core element expected of an actor. How you embody your natural self and you wear the core elements of being an actor. And I enjoy doing that because truth be told is naturally I find myself a storyteller. And it's just always fun how you can live many lives. In fact, I say it a lot that one of the beauty of being an actor is the fact that you can actually be anything you want to be without actually being anything you want to be. I can decide to be a doctor just because the role says I'm a doctor. I will perform a surgery, but I'm not a trained doctor. But I will successfully perform a surgery as an actor. I can live many lives. I can be you once I'm casted to be you.
That's a good side. Let's talk about the downside, which has to do with typecasting. Big names, Patience Ozoku, and other people like Okol, like Kanayo, they are victims of typecasting. So people just feel that, okay, you play this role consistently, you may be this thing. And can that eventually affect your ability to play other roles? Because if somebody is a comedian, for instance, and is used to being in comic roles or comedic roles, at the end of the day, if you put the person in a very serious role, the audience may not be able to switch just almost immediately. How do you manage that kind of character crisis?
Okay, so first thing first is have it in mind that only brilliant actors get typecasted because they've successfully been able to convince you that they are, and that's why you're typecasting them in that role. So they are brilliant actors. However, for a producer, he looks and then say, why do I need to stress my brain when you can bring that element without any stress? So he wants you in that role again. That's for the production end of things. Now, for an actor, it gets challenging because every actor wants to be tested to their depth limit. We want to be able to say, I want to be serious today, I want to be this tomorrow. I give you a practical example. I shot recently, and when they were casting me, the production was like, well, he's too serious. Why should we cast him for a comedic role? And somebody said, no, let's give him a chance. He can pull it off. And I was given a chance. And I pulled it off. And the lady was like, wow, you have that much. I said, that's the problem with you guys. And it's true. We enjoy the typecasting to some extent because, again, it comes with some perks, especially when they love your character. It comes with some perks. People are like, oh my God, it's the one. And then it comes with some downside. I mean, we have actors who have been harassed just because of the character they played. After playing this character here, I had a lot of people who felt I was naturally wicked. And I had to do a lot of convincing.
Are you? Let's take this moment to just, are you? Even your laughter, it has that.
Well, the truth is, if it's what it demands, it's what it gives.
Yeah.
But the truth is, because we have a depth of level, it's this pure thing. When you meet an actor naturally, he can give you anything you want, depending on what you're asking of the person. That's the beauty of being an actor.
And you know, I saw recently Denzel Washington was casting a villain
in
role.
Gladiator.
You know, for the first, I almost cried when the villain died. You felt that way, like don't kill him. Even though he's a villain, but it's Denzel, right? We're used to seeing Denzel. It's a good guy, the all-round, you know, correct guy that you love. So it's a very interesting conversation, really. And I think it's two things. One, also having a conversation with directors, those who cast, and say, you know what, allow these people to explore. The fact that they did well as being the villain doesn't mean they can't do well being the lover boy or, all of that. So I think it's a conversation we need to have, and I'm glad we're having it. But we have to talk about your other parts, right? Because you're not just an actor, you're also a director. You do events as well. So is this a thing of Yoruba saying on Okonwoja? Or the order just came to you and like, what, bring it.
So I think it's not about being an actor, being an MC or being a director. It's actually about being a creative. So I am a core creative. And from the get-go, even I remember when I was going to go to school and I had done well, a lot of the family felt I should study law. And I said, no, I enjoy communication. I want to be in the creative space. So I had gone to study communications at Bode University because that's what I wanted to do. And the moment I came out, I'd put my hands first with radio. I tried TV, but I just knew I wanted to be a creative. And so I had layers to me, started with hosting events and then went into the acting space. But I knew also there was a part of me that wanted to tell stories. So I went back to study filmmaking, and then I went behind the cameras. And I think these days I enjoy a lot directing reality shows. I mean, with Grace, I've been able to work in a number of high-end reality shows, even working on one presently, which belongs to the family.
Funded forward.
Funded forward,
absolutely. Yes. and that's great. So you've done, what are some of the reality shows? So
I do content directing with Big Brother Nigeria. I do content directing. I've done with what's it called, Project Film West Africa. Also with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Style Magnets also presently showing also. And yes, Funding Forward, so quite a number.
I can understand perfectly. To be a content director behind the scenes is a lot of work. I've been on those kind of sets before, and I know sitting down for 30 days and 60 days is not a joke. Nigeria would say it's not beast. But the federal government under the President Bode Tinubu has actually given creatives a seat on the table.
Yes.
Art, culture, tourism, it's a lot of things. Anyway, creative economy. I don't know how they're going to pull that off. Musawa is in charge of that, the honorable minister. But it's one thing to give you a seat on the table. From where you sit, I always like to ask that question. What do you see that is being presented on the table? It's one thing to be given a seat, it's another thing to make a presentation on the table. What is being presented on the table? How is the industry receiving it, and what exactly is it?
And so, right now, the thing is, the government has stretched out their hand to say, hey, we're willing to work with you on this. I mean, we've even had it with past governments. We want to say, okay, we have either these grants available or we have this policy available to work with. I personally don't think that the entertainment industry in Nigeria is willing to stretch their hand back if the government is willing to meet us where we want to be met. Because there are numbers of things that I feel that the industry needs to get to be able to enjoy those policies. Number one is, I keep saying it till tomorrow, I think it's about time more the labor union recognizes the fact that entertainers are actually a labor force and not just people who are exercising hobbies. I mean, I give you an example. Labor goes on strike tomorrow and nobody really cares whether they're shooting a movie or not, because nobody really puts that audience as entertainers really. So we want, and those are the moment they see us as a core part of the labor, I mean, the income generated within the entertainment space is huge. And the more attention put in that space can play a lot of role in the growth of the economy in Nigeria. And so when the government sees us as a stronger labor force, the structures that the entertainment industries are crying about becomes much more solidified. And then people then know that, oh, if I am in the Actors Guild of Nigeria, it basically means that government recognizes me as a part of a body, just like they recognize the Nigerian Medical Association, and they just recognize every other thing. And so that's why I'm saying government needs to meet us where we need to meet them, and so that there is a worth and a better result for what you're putting on the table for us. It's not just a gathering of people who are expressing hobbies. These are people who are doing core professions just the way a doctor is a doctor, a musician is a musician, and an actor is an actor. Core elements like that, yes.
So it's great to have you break it down, and I think it speaks to why there needs to be education. A lot of people take it for granted. I can wing it. I can do this thing. I don't need script. Just put me on the stage. I know what to do. But there needs to be education, right? Yes, and how would you say we've done well in that sense, to be able to standardize our own industry. There's a larger industry, and there's our own industry. There are certain things you expect from Bollywood. There's a way they do their things. There's a standard, cameras, lights, and all, but there's a way they shoot their movies. So that's Bollywood. Hollywood. A lot of people now love Korean series and all of that. But back here in Nigeria, have we been able to ensure that it's standardized such that anybody can go to school, study, and you are sure that whatever the person is churning out is excellent?
Okay, so like I said, before your question came in, I'd said it's very important that these bodies are recognized so that proper structures can be put in place. Now, the truth is we're all guided by the government itself and what's it called now, the rules of the government in this country. And so for me to say that, oh, for me to be an actor, it takes training, it means that there are laws guiding it. If I break that rule and I say I'm not refined enough to act, and then I can say, oh, by the federal government, I think I would face a punishment if I'm not trained enough for this. Besides also, we have a lot of personnel within the industry who are creating film schools, who are creating institutions just to make sure we churn out professionals within the space also. So a lot is going into it. I mean, I had to go to film school. I had to go through a reality TV show some years ago. I had to go through a number of trainings to be where I am today.
Which one pays more, acting or directing?
So you were going to ask another question?
No, because people will say, acting is good, but you know the money comes more for a director. Some will say, no, as an actor, you have the exposure, you have all of that.
So the thing is, it's not about one is better than the other.
No, not better.
I mean pay-wise. Yeah. But it's about the brand that you are, and also your negotiation skills when it comes to the table.
No, the question is simple.
Yes.
Which pays more?
That's it. That's it. This one not way more. So again, both of them give when they need to give.
We must thank you so much for coming. I'm hoping that infrastructure will be upskilled in the industry. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, whether we have a single sound stage in Nigeria. I mean, when you have Tyler Perry, for instance, in Atlanta, has about 6 or 9 sound stages where you can create anything within those sound stages. You can act anything without traveling to anywhere within those sound stages.
It's why we need very, very strong investors. And for investors to come in, investors need to know that I am safe. He needs to know that there are policies and laws guiding his investment. He needs to know that the industry is structured enough for him to put in the millions. So that's what he needs to bring.
Amazon and Prime are saying hello. As we talk about this, because we know what happened in that space and how a lot of them say, you know, we're moving on to other things, but still doesn't change the fact that this is a very viable industry and we have to fix our things. But we have to thank you so much for sharing from a multi-potentiality. We're speaking with Bode Smart, actor, director, host. Thank you for your time. Wish you the very best.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it. What a show it's been here today. Tackled some of the pressing issues, but we're not done just yet. Sunrise Daily is next. To have a great day, I'm Kayode Okikili.
Mine is take your time and read the tax bill and digest it for yourself so that when you're making arguments, you're coming from an informed position. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga. Bye-bye.